All right, let's keep going. Let's implement yet another type of component that can list any number of modules. Let's see. Let's create. So let's create a module list, a list of modules, module list component, and let's see. We'll say that this is import React from React. We'll need to create a class. We'll call it module list, and it's going to extend the React.component and we're going to have a render function here, and it's going to return something, right? And that return, let's start off with a module list just to verify that indeed we are rendering that. We'll need to export this into our default. Okay, there we go. Now from our whiteboard, we can load that module list to see if that comes in. We'll say module list. Notice that it parses my path and it finds that I have a module list. See that? Right? My IDE, if I select it, notice that it automatically imported the module list for me, right, without me having to type it. Right? That's the IDE working on my behalf. If we do that and we re-render and refresh this, notice that indeed we have a module list, right? That it's just that H1, right? From in there, from module list, we can create maybe a list. Notice if I start typing this UL, my list here, notice that it's complaining that there's something wrong. The IDE is complaining. What's wrong with this? Right, remember, the return can only return a single element, right? So we kind of forgot to perhaps put this inside of a div, right? And now it's happy again. Right? I'm going to change this to H2, and we're going to create here an LI with class name. Let's see, this UL is going to have a class name of a list group, and it's going to have a whole bunch of LIs in here, list group items, which are going to allow us to put all sorts of modules here. Module 1. Right, and we can create a whole bunch of modules here. Module 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If we re-render it, notice that indeed it creates a nice list of modules. Yes, taking up the entire width of the page. Ideally these would be hyperlinks that would allow you to navigate, on the left-hand side, right? Why don't we also, wrap this in in some style where we breaks it up into half left-hand side, right-hand side, kind of like a split, left-right split. Let's do that. We can create we call that the course editor that will have on the left-hand side the list of the modules in the course, and on the right-hand side it will show all the widgets, all the lessons for that particular module. So let's create another component here, and we'll call it the course editor. Right, and this course editor will be yet another component. So this will be import React from React, and this will be export default course editor that extends the React.component which again has the same content, right? It's we'll have a render, we'll have a return, and we'll have a div here, right? What am I missing here? Export. Oh, missing class, the most important part. There we go. Okay, and this will be a course editor. Now in the course editor, we could have on the left-hand side the module list, right? So we could bring in the module list here, right? So that perhaps we can take it away from the whiteboard. Let's remove the module list, and instead let's load the course editor. And the course editor will contain the module list. You see that? I loaded the course editor, but the course editor is loading the module list. See that? Right? let's maybe make the module list, since course editor is H2, I'll make module list an H3, so it's a little smaller, right? Okay, so there it is. So notice that the module is now slightly smaller than the course editor, but we want this to be a split, an even split on the left-hand side, right-hand side. So the course editor can then perhaps split this into two pieces. Maybe have on the left-hand side we can have the module, and on the right-hand side we can have something else, right? So we have on the left-hand side. So this is the left. This is the left, right? And this is going to be the right side. These classes mean nothing just yet, but the way we can split it, we can put this inside of a grid, of a bootstrap grid, that is going to allow us to create a row and then multiple columns. All right, so to do that, we can bring about our class row, right, to create this one single row and split this in half, and maybe not half. We can have a column on the left-hand side of size, say, 4, and on the right-hand side of a column of size maybe 8, right? Always adding up to 12. And so on the module list, we're going to have the module on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we're going to have something. I don't know yet. We'll have a right side. So if we render, notice that indeed it's been split. Right? We have the module list on the left-hand side, right? And on the right-hand side, we don't have anything yet. Right? We could perhaps have what? We could have maybe the tabs that allow us to navigate from one lesson to another lesson. Right, maybe we can have tabs and say, okay, I want to look at lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. Right, and we can maybe select a particular module, and as we select the modules, right, the different right-hand side changes accordingly. So let's take a look at that. In Bootstrap, if we go to navigate, right, we have a couple of tabs here. Let's look for navigation tabs. There we go. So we have some navigation tabs. We can grab them. We can grab them and create a lesson navigator, perhaps. All right, so let's create a component here, another component. Maybe this will be called something like lesson tabs component. Again, this will be a React component from React, and let's create here an export default class lesson tabs, which extends the React component, right? That is going to render as following. It'll just return the following content, right? That whole UL. Okay, that whole UL. Notice that this is going to complain for something. What's wrong with this? Notice that it's using the class, right? Right, and class is a keyword. So we're going to have to replace. Wherever you have a class, we'll need to replace it with class name. Right? The transpiler is very forgiving, right? It understands, it will treat it as just a regular class, right? But in the console of the browser, it will throw exceptions every time it finds these classes instead of class names. It says, you're using a reserved keyword, blah blah blah. So even though it'll work just fine, it'll render just fine. We should use the correct naming convention. So this is class name, and so we can replace this with class name and replace everywhere. Oops. So here, and that's class. There we go. I think that's it, right? Anywhere else? I think that's all we need. Excellent. So now that we have these lesson tabs in the course editor, we have on the left-hand side, we have the modules. On the right-hand side, we could load those lesson tabs on the right-hand side. If we refresh, notice that we have on the left-hand side the list of modules, and we have maybe the lessons on the right-hand side. This would allow you to navigate from one module to the next. And on the right-hand side, and depending on the module that you select, it allows you to navigate to different lessons in the same module. Yes? Right? We can go a little further, and perhaps we have a very hierarchical course, right? That has modules, we have lessons, we have topics, different topics, right? So maybe one of the lessons is HTML, right? And then you have various topics, right, on images and dealing with responsiveness and dealing with a whole bunch of topics within the HTML lesson. Yes? Right? So let's create yet another component, and we'll call it the topics, right? And instead of rendering them as tabs, we're going to render them as pills. So I'm going to grab those pills, and I'm going to create a topics or topic pills, right? And again, same thing. I'm going to create my component. So import React from React, and we're going to export into the defaults a class called topics pills that extends the React component object component that implements the render, and it returns this this UL. We're going to replace this with class name, replace all. Right. So now from my oops, something wrong. Oh, anything else? That's it, right? Okay. We can now use this piece of Lego to go back to the course editor and say that on the right-hand side, not only do I want lessons tabs, but underneath, right underneath, right, I want some topics pills, right? And now we start to look like something that can be edited, right? So we have modules on the left, some tabs on the top, and then some pills that I can navigate even further down. Everybody good? Everybody good? All right, awesome. And everything, everything exists inside of this module called Course Editor, right? So what we need to learn in the next lesson or so, we'll learn how to navigate between a particular card and click on a particular card and say, oh, I want to go and edit, CS 5610. Or I want to edit CS 3500. I want to edit CS 5200, and we'll navigate, right, and show the different modules for each different course, right, and the different lessons inside. Yes.
So you said that for React components, we only have like one element essentially.
Yes.
Is it good practice to wrap it into a container fluid or a container like second matter?
Ideally, you want every time you do a container fluid, if it's nested, it will add 15 pixels in, 15 pixels in, so it'll make it smaller and smaller and smaller. So typically, you just want one big container at the root, right, and then never again, right? All right, excellent. So let's keep going.